Good sport. Good sport.
All right, let's wake up, guys. Stand up.
Good
Stand up.
sport.
Yeah, shake your body. Shake your body. Punch your fellow brothers and sisters. Massage them. Wake up. Wake up. I'm going to give you a fair warning right now. If you fall asleep during this lecture, I will not hesitate to throw chalk at you. Yeah, okay, well, if everyone's awake, you can sit down. Yes, so today my name is Junghee.
Hi, Junghee.
Yeah, I'm from Richport. Yeah,
Hey.
Connecticut.
You
By the way,
beat.
yeah, we have a lot of different states represented today. But yes, today I wanted to start off with this quote. Can somebody read it for me?
Relying on God has to begin all over again every day as if nothing had yet been done.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Isn't that deep? It's kind of like as you go on throughout your day, like sometimes like in my group, we're talking about how we get inspired, but then it's easy for that inspiration to kind of fade as we go into our morning or nightly and day-to-day routines. And, it feels like a mundane kind of like continuously just, you're just doing stuff. And the life of faith is constant growth, right? So I just wanted to ask, like, since we learned about, so far we've learned POC, principles of creation, like God's hope for humanity, right? Like God created the world to be like so beautiful and so good. His vision for humanity was that Adam and Eve would grow through all three of these growth stages to perfection, become this ideal people centered on God, and create this ideal world through ideal families and all this give and take action of goodness, right? And then boom, we fell. Catastrophic, we're linked to Satan. Now we're in this terrible, we learned through Luke, we're in this terrible position where we can relate to both God and Satan. Like we have give and take every day with both God and Satan. And it's just like a constant contradiction of wanting to do good, but then sometimes we do things that are bad for us, and sometimes we do bad things and we think it's for good. And it's just like, it's so confusing, right? There's like no good indicator between like black and white. But through principle, we will learn that actually there is, because after this fall, God could have just given up. They're like, yep, that's it. I failed. They suck. They're killing each other. They're raping each other. They're stealing and they're doing terrible things. And it breaks his heart. But instead of choosing to just kind of give that up, he decides that he's going to try to bring us back up again to this point where we can just be centered on God, and we can slowly erase our ties to Satan and become this like ideal people where we can love each other, not butcher each other based on race, color, or differences. We just are a family, right? A family with God. And so we learned through Sam's lecture I do permission now. Okay, so we learned that, we received spiritual salvation through Jesus Christ, was able to bring us up, and I'll kind of like go into this a little bit more in the lecture. But if you look at the state of the world, you can see that it's not really like perfect yet, right? Like we still have like mass shooting. We still have like these terrible things happen. And can I just ask, like, have any of you guys ever like just felt like so hopeless? Yeah, I know I have. Like just looking at the world, you see these terrible things. And even though like out of all the people in the world, like, no, there's some like good people doing good things. There's like 8 billion of us in the world now. Isn't that crazy? And then like you kind of feel like I'm so tiny in this little like I'm just like a tiny little I'm just that dot. Like, what's that? There's like an idiom like in a bowl of soup, I'm just a crumb of bread floating in the universe, right? It's easy to feel like that sometimes, all the time. But yeah, and then you're like, okay, well, I can do my part by not really doing anything bad. Like, I don't want to like hurt others, but also, just me, like not doing bad doesn't mean that there aren't still people in the world who are doing really bad things. So in the wider scale of things, like how can we make a change? Like, how is God going to bring humanity into a place where we can just all be good? Doesn't that seem kind of impossible? Like, doesn't it feel like maybe there'll always be bad people? But actually, yeah, as we're learning, we always have a choice. It comes down to individual responsibility. And there's actually, as much as God is a God of like love and care, he's also a God of math and science. So we're going to be learning a couple of laws or principles or concepts of how God has been working throughout history to save us, to restore us. Essentially, bring us from fallen humanity to the ideal, to our original nature, right? And the whole topic in the divine principle that explains this is called, oh wait, I was gonna, oh, okay, sorry. I muted myself, okay, sorry. Actually, yeah. One thing that I was also gonna say was like, we are the products of history who produce history, right? It's always moving forward. That doesn't mean that we don't each have an individual like contribution we can make. And that's what God is trying to tell us through this topic called the providence of restoration. I don't know why I wrote that. It's already up there. Yeah. So that's a big word. The divine principle can be very wordy. It's like very scientific. It's very wordy. It's like nice because it makes sense, but I'm just gonna help break it down a little. So what does providence mean? Providence is defined in the Merriam Dictionary as divine guidance or care. So you can see through like God's divine guidance and care, he's trying to restore humanity. It's like kind of pretty straight to the point, simple. But it's always good to go over these things because yeah, it's the foundation of what we're going to learn in the future too. So restoration stands for the action of returning something to its former condition. Sorry, my handwriting is that's yeah. So we have the providence and restoration, right? It's the will of God's work in the salvation of all humanity. That's a really big task. And that's like something only the divine, like only God can do, right? It's so hard to sometimes try to imagine the scope of how he's like doing things. And sometimes things happen in our life that we can't understand, but God always is trying so hard to do his best for us. And the thing is, we learned in the principle of creation that even though God does his 95% of the effort, if we don't have our 5% portion of responsibility in order to make the decisions and take the opportunity and the accountability and responsibility to work together with God, then it means nothing, right? Because yeah, like Luke said, if God could just snap his fingers and be like, humanity restored, that'd be so great, right? That'd be so easy. That would be amazing if we could just like be, oh, I'm perfect now. Let's all be happy. But actually, because we were the ones who brought ourselves to this condition, by law of principle, God is not allowed to just snap his fingers and bring us back, because we have to be the ones to work together with God to bring ourselves back. Anyways, I'll go into that later. So, yes, the providence of restoration. How does God restore people? There's something called conditions. Conditions of indemnity. This sentence can have some negative connotations to members sometimes, but in its truest meaning, a condition of indemnity. Okay, more definitions, because I love definitions. They're simplifying things, right? It's just going down to the root of what they mean. A condition is the circumstance affecting the manner or outcome of something. Yeah. And indemnity is a comprehensive form of compensation to restore what was lost. What was lost, damaged, or lost or damaged. In this case of what the divine principle is talking about, we're talking about the loss of our original nature to be like completely in relation to God, right? So going back to this kind of concept of being able to relate to both God and Satan, what a condition does is every waking moment of the day, we're making conditions. We're making conditions that will either bring us closer to God or closer to Satan. Every day, it can be the smallest thing. It could be the smallest thing, like snoozing your alarm clock. It's so easy, but it's just in the larger scheme of things, it's like either making us more lazy or making us late to work or impacting someone else's life. And that kind of selfishness is just centered on like Satan, right? And every little small thing that we do, whether it's like making the bed for someone else or, trying to do little acts of kindness, like little good deeds, that's a condition that brings us closer to God. And so, how do we know, okay, anyways, I'm going to erase this, is that okay? So you guys kind of understand the concept of conditions a little bit, right?
Mhm.
So there are actually 3 kinds of indemnity conditions. There's lesser, equal, and greater. Feel free to stand up and, if you're feeling sleepy. It's okay. It's very warm now, actually. All of a sudden. But yeah. Okay. There's these 3 indemnity conditions. Lesser. It's just really simple. It's like, oh yeah, like principle is just like rules or like the laws of the universe. Like if you understand it, it's like pretty simple. 3 indemnity conditions. Lesser means that you're offering something of lesser value than what was lost in order to restore. Restore, repair. Equal is offering something of equal value in order to, restore what was lost. Greater is offering something of greater value than what was lost. To put this into perspective, I have a little example. You guys have all heard of the baseball kid story, right? Kid is told by his father, you shouldn't be playing with the baseball in the yard, it's too close to the house. If you do, you're gonna end up messing something up. And the kid is like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. He doesn't really know the consequences, and then he's just playing, he's just having a good time, and boom, the window's broken. It's his neighbor's house. And he's like, sure. Definitely something that will bring us closer to Satan is a condition of just running away and pretending, oh, wasn't me, But in order to restore our original nature back to God, he can do something to try to restore that window. So he could either offer something of like lesser value. Of course it's valuable, actually. Apologies are so valuable. But he could just say sorry. And then let's say the neighbors are really kind and they forgive him. It's okay. It was honestly, it was an honest mistake. It's fine. It's still restoring that relationship, right? Or the dad could say, yeah, you have to do chores for the rest of the week to make money in order to help repair the neighbor's window. That's equal indemnity. So you have to do chores for a week in order to pay for the loss. Greater indemnity would be I don't know, his dad grounds him or something, and he has to do a lot of work in order to do it. Another example is let's say I went to my friend's house when I was a kid and I exploded their microwave because I put aluminum foil in it. And I just think, I'm so sorry, I forgot. And they're like, it's okay. That's lesser indemnity, right? I don't have to pay as much. And then equal indemnity is I try to give them back a microwave. And greater indemnity is I give them back a microwave plus a fruit basket and a note of apology and be like, I'm so sorry. Either way, it's kind of up to the person receiving that restoration and the person giving that restoration and the kind of relationship that's restored, right? And we're trying to restore our relationship with God and humanity. Yeah. And it can even just be with our fellow brothers and sisters where this relationship is restored. I have 2 flatmates, they're sisters, and they fight all the time. Sometimes they're an old married couple and they're they hug each other, they're watching TV on the couch and they're eating each other and stuff, and they're so cute. And then sometimes they fight crazy and they're yelling at each other, and there's a cold war and they don't talk to each other for weeks. And then it just takes a simple apology from one of them in order to, that's the condition that they set in order to restore their relationship, right? And then they're back to being a happy old married couple again. Yeah, so that's the concept of setting an indemnity condition. And there's 3 types. Kind of get that, right? Yeah, that's a lot. How am I on time? Yeah. Ready for more?
Yeah.
Do that. Oh, wow. Thanks. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, so now there is a second section in the divine principle that kind of like categorizes the conditions that we make into like two different things. All right. There's a concept of a foundation of faith. So if you're trying to make a house, you have to have a foundation to build up on. Eva do this. It's the law of the universe, again, law of creation, for everything to go through a formation, growth, and completion stage, right? And so it has to have a foundation, a caterpillar, like a seed will grow into a sprout, will grow into a tree. And there are roots. A house cannot stand without its foundation. On that concept, God cannot save humanity as a whole until we create the necessary foundation in order for him to ascend, in order for him to, well, I'll get into that anyways. There's one last one, which is foundation for the Messiah. Okay, so a foundation of faith, you can see it as like a proof of faith, or in other words, it's shown by just when we follow God's commandment. That can be anything from following the Bible, following the 10. Oh my God. Yes, thank you. 10 commandments. It's you need to have faith, right? Foundation of substance is proof of character. Proof that you are becoming one with God's heart. Becoming one with God's heart. Becoming like him. Becoming like God. And that's substantiated through our actions and through our words or what we're doing. So then we have the foundation for the Messiah, which is just proof of existence. It's crazy to think that before Jesus was sent, it was just so revolutionary, right? Like Jesus revolutionized the world, was so famous because he showed us how to love. And the thing is, because humanity was at such a low and terrible point, and because we're constantly looking at others in order to be inspired and know how to do right, and Jesus was like the biggest influencer of that. He was the role model that set humanity, gave us a step into becoming closer to God. And that's the whole point, right? So we need the foundation for the Messiah because it's that like proof of existence. We all have like role models and idols. That's just like basic human nature, I guess. Like in sociology, we learn that like we learn from each other and we influence each other. And also it's the foundation to receive the Messiah in order to be restored. Yeah. And to put this into more perspective, I'm going to draw So yeah, that's the foundation of faith, the foundation of substance, and the foundation for the Messiah. Foundation of faith can be like doing a daily prayer, right? That's setting a condition to like strengthen your faith and come closer to God. Foundation of substance can be like just, I don't know, waking up early in the morning or something and just like listening to nature or going out and like garden or something. It's like doing something for the world. Foundation of substance. And every time we work on our foundation of faith and our foundation of substance, we set the foundation for the Messiah. So in a diagram, what that looks like is this house. We, as humanity, we can work on both our foundation of faith plus our foundation of substance. We follow the commandment and we become one in heart with God. In order for God to be able to work, we set the conditions for him to send the Messiah. Foundation for the Messiah. It's like, yeah, it's like, I hope that makes sense. So, since the time of Adam to Abraham to Jesus, God has been working to try to set the conditions to restore humanity. Adam, Abraham, and Jesus. Stop me if you don't know these stories. Like, stop me anytime. I'd love to answer questions if you have. But yes, basically, God works through something called central figures. And a central figure, you know, we like to think heroes or like heroes are born or something like that. But I think actually it's different. And yeah, the divine principle, the central figure is a person who shoulders the responsibility for others in the providence of restoration. So going back to this concept that God is trying to restore all of humanity, honestly, Adam only had one job. Adam had one job. Eve had one job. I'm sorry. Eve and Adam had one job. They just needed to follow God's commandment and become one in heart with God. And then they would have been, Messiah is kind of a word that I don't always like using. It's like, it's in the DP, but it's like, it's just supposed to be like the ideal person. And Messiah is just the ideal person. He or she is the culmination of what God envisioned humanity to look like. And so Adam and Eve would have been the parents of humanity that created a perfect world if they had just followed the commandment and become one in heart with God. But no, they didn't follow the commandment. So Adam and Eve did not have a foundation of faith because they listened to Lucifer. And they did not have a foundation of substance because instead of owning up to their mistakes, they blamed each other. They blamed other people. They're like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. No, they were like, it's his fault. It's her fault. No, he did it. She did it. He started it. You know? Yeah, that's not what God envisioned us to look like. So yeah, we did not have a foundation for Messiah. They did not do that. They failed. But then we have Abraham. Okay, God is trying to work through Abraham. God is like, I'm going to raise up this central figure. And I don't know if you guys know the story of like God commanding Abraham to kill his own son. Yeah, that seems really extreme for like a God of love. Like, why would he command someone to kill their own son? In the end, it was just because God needed a condition that was a proof of his faith. And did God make him do it in the end? No. All he needed to know was that he was willing to do anything for God. And of course, God would never make him kill his own child. So precious to God. But through that, Abraham was able to restore a foundation of faith. And then for the foundation of substance, in order to complete this like offering and become one in heart with God, God just was like, okay, now just complete the offering by like cutting a cow and a dove and a sheep and all these different animals in half. And Abraham was like, okay. And he was like cutting them. And then he was like, oh, actually cutting them in half back in the day, like back in Abraham's day, was probably super hard because yeah, they didn't have the tools we have now. It's like rough. But he cut everything except for the dove, this tiny little animal. But because kind of it was a sign of laziness, it wasn't a perfect person or perfect offering anymore. Even though it was just like such a tiny little thing, cutting like the little dove, it didn't set the proof of character that God was looking for in a person to create that foundation of substance in order to set the foundation for that. So if Abraham had just cut the dove, he could have boom, 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 and then humanity restored. But nope, we didn't have that. Then finally, we move on to Jesus. Jesus. Yes, he completed the foundation of faith. Through his ministry, his devoted lifestyle, completed the foundation of substance through his actions. And then once again, the foundation for the Messiah is a proof of existence. He did exist, of course. And so he would have completed that if the people had just believed that he was the Messiah. If John the Baptist hadn't failed to say he was Elijah and just be like, yeah, guys, this is the Messiah, we have to follow him, then Jesus could have restored everything. Jesus could have made that become a reality, like the kingdom of heaven on earth, by having, like Sam was saying, by finding an earthly bride and creating that four-position foundation centered on God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, which would have been an earthly bride to create children of goodness in the world. But because the people did not believe in him, this also was kind of like a half completion, and it was supposed to end with Jesus, but we couldn't, and so now we need the second advent, right? In order to have both the foundation of faith and the foundation of the people. So that's just kind of the history of central figures working. And so we're at this time right here that's kind of like delicate, right? We're right here. We're in between Jesus and the second advent. And I think it's really easy for that train of thought to be like, okay, once the second advent comes, I don't have to do anything. I just have to wait. I just have to wait for the second advent to come, and then he'll make everything right. And like, I don't know, like some people believe like, fire will rain down and I'll fly up because I believed, and that's it. But actually in the divine principle, we learned that every individual has a portion of responsibility. Everybody has a responsibility in this providence, in history. Like I was saying in the beginning of the presentation, we are the products of history who produce history. And so now more than ever, our actions count in order to create this foundation for the second advent. How do we do that? It's elucidated in the third section, which is the history of the providence of restoration. And me. And I. So the will of God for our work in the salvation of humanity. I didn't mean to like cross out God, like it's not God's work. It's still God's work. It's God plus me. In order to save myself and to save others, humanity, and restore. So in the province of restoration and I'm almost done here, guys. We just learned that as individuals, just go back to this, just remember this. Every day, you need to set a foundation of faith for yourself. It's so hard, like in the beginning, it's like every day I need to rely on God. Every day I doubt, every day I like question, and every day I have to will myself and determine myself to come back to God and follow his command. It's so easy to kind of be engulfed in the secular world and the vices, and it's like the easy road, like, yeah. But every day we have that choice. Once again, we're setting conditions to become closer to Satan and become closer to God. So by creating conditions of indemnity for the foundation of faith, we're becoming closer to God. And then foundation of substance, we have that choice in our life, like physical salvation. We can become one in heart with God through understanding God's heart, to care for others, and to think every day, like, what would God do? Like Luke was saying, how would God view this situation? And not focus on how I feel, how this makes me feel. Once again, like, yeah, maybe my pride is ruined and I want to hurt this person back because they hurt me. But if you try to look from a different point of view, God's point of view, you can see that we're setting conditions, that we're becoming one in heart with God in order to set indemnity conditions to be like God, and also once again become closer to God, and that will be the foundation in which the second advent can arrive. And yeah. So, moral of the story. Like set good conditions. It can be in whatever way you feel connected to God. It can be through prayer, it can be through nature, it can be through music, whatever, right? Set your foundation of faith. Then do your best to become one in heart with God. Ultimately, that's the way you can restore the world, by becoming central figures in our own lives that can uphold our own responsibility and also the responsibility of others. And through that, we're going to be continuing to become closer and closer to the ideal world. And 3, understand the history of the providence of restoration and my heart in it. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I just wanted to end on a quote. Sorry. Aki, can you read that for us, please?
Normality is a paved road. It's comfortable to walk, but no flowers grow. Vincent Van Gogh.
Yes. Yep. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Junghee. Let's give her another hand. Thank you so much for pouring so much of your energy into us. Did you guys feel that? She was really pouring into us. Yes, thank you. And yeah, thank you.